All right. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this traditional pre-General Assembly press conference. The Secretary General will make some remarks. He will take some questions. We have our wonderful interpreters here, so you can ask questions in French or Spanish as well. Yeah. Sir, please, you have the floor.
Once again, good afternoon. Leaders are making their way to New York for the UN's 80th anniversary and the high-level week of the General Assembly. Some call it the World Cup of diplomacy. But this cannot be about scoring points. It must be about solving problems. There is too much at stake. We are gathering in turbulent, even uncharted waters. Geopolitical divides widening, conflicts raging, impunity escalating, our planet overeating, new technologies racing ahead without guardrails, inequalities widening by the hour, and international cooperation is straining under pressures unseen in our lifetimes. But next week, every country will be here, including nearly 150 heads of state and government. And this is an opportunity we cannot miss. UN Week offers every possibility for dialogue and mediation, every opportunity for forging solutions. Thousands of leaders' meetings will take place, and I will hold over 150 bilateral meetings myself, and I will use every one of them to press leaders to contact each other, to speak directly with each other, to bridge divides, to reduce risks, to find solutions, to get serious. People are demanding answers and action, actions that match the gravity of the challenges our world faces, actions that meet the expectations of all those on the outside looking in. Let this be a week of solutions for peace in Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, and beyond, and for a pathway for a just, lasting peace in the Middle East based on a two-state solution. For climate, with countries stepping up with ambitious new national climate action plans that keep 1.5 degree limit alive. For responsible innovation, as we launch the global dialogue on AI governance to put humanity at the center of technological change with every country at the table. For women and girls, with concrete plans for equality as we mark the 30th anniversary of the landmark Beijing Conference. For financing development, at the first of its kind biennial summit, bringing together leaders of international financial institutions and heads of state, and focused on implementing commitments on financing the Sustainable Development Goals. For a stronger, United Nations, by backing our UN80 initiative to equip the UN for a world that no longer looks like 1945 or even last year. The list is long because the needs are great. Our times demand more than posturing and promises. They demand that leaders make progress and follow through. To honor the Charter, pursue peace, advance sustainable development, ensure human rights, and confront global challenges together. The United Nations is the place. Next week is the time, and leaders must get serious and deliver. Thank you, and I am at your disposal for any question that eventually you might want to ask.
Let's try with Valeria.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Secretary General, on behalf of UNGA for this press conference. My question is on Gaza. A UN Commission of Inquiry concluded that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza, and the top Israeli official, including Prime Minister Netanyahu, incited these acts. What's your reaction on that? And are you planning to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu next week or any other senior Israeli officials? And if I may, can, in your opinion, the U.S. role in mediating with Israel and Qatar help in going back to the negotiating table? Thank you so much.
There are many questions at the same time. Well, as I've said time and time again in these and different similar circumstances, it is not in the attributions of the Secretary General to do the legal determination of genocide. That belongs to the adequate judicial entities, namely the International Court of Justice. And let us be aware that at the present moment, the International Court of Justice is dealing with a case whose name is Application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip. Now, the fact that I have not the competence to do the determination of the legal determination of genocide doesn't mean that I do not consider that what's happening in Gaza after the horrific attacks by Hamas in October 2 years ago, what happens in Gaza today is horrendous. We are seeing massive destruction of neighborhoods, now the systematic destruction of Gaza City. We are seeing massive killing of civilians in a way that I do not remember in any conflict since I am Secretary General. And we are seeing dramatic obstacles to the distribution of humanitarian aid. At a certain moment, it completely stopped. With the consequences that the Palestinian people is suffering an horrendous situation with famine, with no access to any kind of health support, and with continued displacement and the imminent risk of losing their lives at any moment. So this is something we cannot forget. Independently of the names that are given, the truth is that this is something that it is morally, politically, and legally intolerable. Now, the second question was about Qatar and the United States. I believe the objective of the meeting is to strengthen the bilateral agreement on defense. Qatar has already announced that Qatar was ready to start again the mediation. And that mediation is absolutely vital when we see the new phase of destruction of Gaza City, to have a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire, with the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, and with effective humanitarian aid being distributed. So let's hope that this meeting with the US will help the US put pressure on Israel for seriously accepting a negotiation.
Will you meet Prime Minister Netanyahu next week?
I will be delighted to receive Prime Minister Netanyahu if he asks for that, as I will do with any other member, head of state. And of course, according to the rules, I will inform, if that is the case, the International Criminal Court. But the gravity of the situation in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories more than justify that if the Prime Minister of Israel wants a meeting, for me to grant it.
Edie, and if I could ask you all kindly to limit yourselves to one question, given the number of questions that we want to get through.
Mr. Secretary General, you said that next week should be a week of actions and solutions to the world's myriad conflicts, crises, and challenges. But in an even more deeply divided and polarized world, what realistic chance is there for a breakthrough for peace in Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, or anywhere else, and for tackling climate change and generating more financing for the SDGs or for the United Nations? And I know,
Yep.
Steph will.
That's already one long, big question. Yeah. Sir, please.
Well, I think this is an important opportunity in relation to all the conflicts. I'll be meeting, hopefully, the Russian Federation delegation, the Ukrainian delegation. I will be meeting at least the Middle East countries and some friends of Israel. I'll be meeting Sudan. I will be meeting, I will have a mediation again, meeting with the two sides of Cyprus and different other areas where we are involved, the DRC and many other places. And I believe that heads of state and government have an opportunity, as they are together here, and as most of the conflicts we have today are conflicts with a several number of actors. Look at Libya, look at the DRC. This is an opportunity to bring them together, and we'll do our best to do so. There will be a formal meeting on Somalia, and I hope that there will be several other meetings on all the other issues, and we'll be actively engaged in promoting them in order to be able to be as close as possible to relaunch seriously the peace processes the world needs. Obviously, this is also an occasion for countries to make commitments. I hope many will present their national determined contributions on climate, hopefully aligned with 1.5 degrees. This will be the moment in which we will announce, we'll make the invitation for candidates for the high-level independent scientific panel on artificial intelligence. This will be an occasion for, I hope, many countries understand that it is absolutely essential to increase the funds available to developing countries in all aspects. And this is not only through ODA, we know, but it is through the reform of multilateral institutions, is through the increase of the action of multilateral development banks, is through many innovative forms of financing that are perfectly possible, independent of the fact that the direct aid to development will be very difficult to increase with the position of the United States and also the position of other countries that have to increase their, or believe they have to increase their defense expenditures. But we need to have the imagination to find many other sources of financing, and we know that this is possible. I've said time and time again, if you put $1 in a project, it's $1. If we put $1 in the capital of a multilateral development bank, it's $5. So there are ways to multiply resources that are scarce, and this will be in the center of our discussion of the in relation to the to development. The first time that we will be gathering not only heads of state but international financial institutions, G20 members, to seriously look how can we overcome the present obstacles and be able to relaunch the Sustainable Development Goals. So there are really problems, there are really limitations, but there are ways to overcome them, and that is why this discussion is so important.
Sherwin, then Michelle.
Secretary General, Sherwin Briceby, South African Broadcasting. Good to see you, sir. I want to return to the question of genocide in Gaza. Navi Pillay, the chair of the Commission of Inquiry, said the following today: "It's our hope that this report will be read by the upper-ups, including the Secretary General at the UN, and we hope that the fact should influence the high-level leaders at the UN to also call it what it is, a genocide." Quote, "There is no need to wait for the ICJ to declare it a genocide. Human Rights Watch has declared it a genocide. Amnesty International has declared it a genocide. A world-leading association on genocide scholars has called it a genocide. South Africa has called it a genocide. Many countries have. Is the United Nations not now out of step from the prevailing and growing consensus that this is a genocide in Gaza?"
The United Nations has several bodies, and the role of the Secretary General is to be aligned with the bodies of the United Nations. So obviously, if that is decided by the Security Council or by the General Assembly, the Secretary General will be abiding by those resolutions. But until now, those resolutions were not made.
Michelle, then Benno.
Thank you, Secretary General. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Thank you for the briefing. You also hope to meet with President Trump next week for the first time since he returned to office in January. What do you hope to achieve during that meeting?
Well, I would be delighted to meet President Trump, and the US is a central player in world affairs. There are many public positions that both of us have, but I do believe that there are areas where our efforts can be put together. I'll give an example. We talk about peace mediation. The UN has very strong efforts in peace mediation in different parts of the world, where we have people that knows all the interlocutors, people that has a wide experience of the economic, social, and other root causes and the human rights problems of the countries, that have a relationship of trust and confidence with some of the key actors. But we have no carrots and no sticks. And as we have no carrots and no sticks in a world in which we have the geopolitical divides that we have, it's extremely difficult to make the protagonists of the present conflicts understand the need to come to peace. Now, the United States has carrots and sticks. So in some situations, if you are able to combine the two, I think we can have a very effective way to make sure that some peace process at least can lead to a successful result.
Any particular situations that you would like to mention?
I mean, there are many situations around the world that are known, and in all of them, I think we should be open to find ways to join efforts.
Benno, then Bisan.
Peace is a major objective, I believe, of both sides.
Secretary General Benno Schwinghammer with the German press agency. My question is about Ukraine. As you know, President Trump and President Putin met recently in Alaska. After this, do you see any realistic path to peace in Ukraine right now? And connected to this, President Trump is openly campaigning for the Nobel Peace Prize. In your view, has he done enough to deserve it so far?
Well, that is a question to ask to some people in Norway that deal with this issue. I am not optimistic about a short-term progress in the peace process in the Ukraine. Our position is very clear. We need an immediate ceasefire, but a ceasefire that leads to a solution based on the UN Charter, international law, and the resolutions of the General Assembly. The positions of both sides are now largely incompatible. And after the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, we have seen that the Russian Federation has resisted strongly to the idea of a ceasefire, and saying that a global agreement is necessary, and we all know how difficult it is to achieve. So I am afraid we might witness this war to go on, at least for some time, and to go on now with a violence that is particularly dramatic because it's having a huge impact on civilians, which is absolutely regrettable.
What exactly does not make you optimistic?
Sorry?
What makes you pessimistic? What exactly is it?
I'm not optimistic at the short term because I see the positions of the two sides very different. Very different. I believe that Ukraine has a legitimate interest to preserve its territorial integrity, and it's clear that Russia is determined to do something that would mean the occupation of large parts of the Ukraine.
Bisan, then Javier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. This is Bisan Abuquake with Al Jazeera Arabic. more and more criticism is targeted towards the UN and the international community for the failure of protection of civilians in Gaza as this war approaches 2 years. Today, we have seen the military operation start in Gaza City. Is it time for the international community, for the UN, for member states to push for a force to protect civilians in Gaza?
I do not think it will be possible to have a force at the present moment. It will be rejected by Israel and I believe rejected by also the United States. We have not the instruments for an effective protection of civilians to the extent that 400 of our staff has been killed. So I would like to have an immediate ceasefire, and having an immediate ceasefire to have an international force able to protect civilians. This would be an objective that I would strongly cherish. But at the present moment, it looks like Israel is determined to go up to the end and not open to a serious negotiation for a ceasefire, with the dramatic consequence from the Israeli point of view that it is also not allowing for the release of hostages that we have always said should be immediate and unconditional. So let's be clear, with the attack that took place in Qatar, it doesn't look that Israel is interested in a serious negotiation for a ceasefire and release of hostages.
Javier and Chris and Miriam.
Secretario General Javier Otazu de la Agencia F española. ¿Le puedo hacer una pregunta en español?
Sí, yo hablaré en portuñol y usted podrá traducir.
Una pregunta sobre Venezuela. Estados Unidos ha atacado ya 3 veces a barcos de Venezuela que supuestamente transportaban droga y ha matado a 14 personas. ¿Qué piensa de la legalidad de estas acciones? ¿Tiene derecho Estados Unidos a llevarlas a cabo?
Nosotros no tenemos aún una información completa sobre exactamente lo que pasó, pero para nosotros es evidente que es absolutamente esencial respetar la ley, el derecho internacional en esta materia.
Secretary General.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Thank you for this briefing. Chris Reyes with Canadian Broadcasting. My question is also...
Sorry, where are you? Oh,
She's
yes.
right.
Chris Reyes with Canadian Broadcasting. Secretary General, my question is also on this new UN report that finds Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. What is your direct response to Israel's rejection of the findings of the report? And if nothing comes out of the report, what does this say about the UN's relevance?
Well, the report is a report of an independent inquiry committee. I think that Israel should take it into account, and everybody should take the report into account. And obviously, these are serious questions. As I said, for us, it's not for us to determine the legal to do the legal determination of, but the report is a serious report that I believe should be carefully read, and namely by the Israeli authorities.
Miriam, if you could wave so we can see you.
Miriam Ramadi with Volunteer Media, Afghanistan International. My question is about Afghan women and girls who remain erased from public life under the Taliban. Beyond statements of concern, what concrete steps...
You refer to what situation?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. As you know, Afghan women and girls remain erased from public life under the Taliban. What concrete steps will the UN take to hold the Taliban accountable for systemic gender apartheid? And also if you have any comments about this snapback mechanism at the Security Council. Thank you.
Well, what's happening in Afghanistan is absolutely intolerable. And it's not only intolerable, it's also stupid. Because not to allow women and girls to participate in humanitarian aid is terribly detrimental to the whole population of Afghanistan. We are doing everything we can directly and mobilizing the international community to make the Taliban understand that it is in the vital interest of Afghanistan that women and girls are allowed to do humanitarian work, and that humanitarian aid reaches effectively women and girls in the country. The present situation is intolerable.
Is it only in humanitarian work and just about girls' education, women being removed?
These are other aspects in which we have always been clearly in favor of gender equality, has always been our motto. Of course, we understand that there is a long way to go, but now we had a, I would say, more serious situation with the deprivation of humanitarian aid to women and girls in several situations, and not allowing women and girls to provide humanitarian aid. And this is something that is, in my opinion, totally unacceptable. About the snapback, I think there is still time to avoid it. My appeal to Iran and to the other powers is to use diplomacy and to create the conditions of trust in order to be able to avoid it. I have been in contact with both sides, of course, offering my good offices, but it all depends on the diplomatic efforts that are made in order to reestablish the trust that is needed for the snapback to be avoided.
Deji, James, and Pam.
Secretary General, Shudoji with China Central Television. My question on two-state solution.
On
two-state solution.
The two-state solution.
The two-state solution.
Two-state solution.
Yes. We heard recently not only right-wing officials of Israeli Authority, even the Prime Minister of Israel, talking about there will be no state of Palestine. With Israel continuing its military operation and illegal settlements in West Bank as well as in Gaza, if there is no territory, where is the two-state solution? And how should the international community and the UN to preserve the two-state solution? Thank you.
I think we absolutely must do everything and mobilize as much as we can the international community to make sure that the two-state solution prevails. And the question is simple: what is the alternative? It's a one state in which one people is deprived of basic rights, one state in which one people is moved out of their land. Is this possible in the 21st century? Is this acceptable in the 21st century? I think that Israel must understand that the one-state solution with the subjugation of the Palestinian people without rights is absolutely intolerable. And so the two-state solution remains the only viable alternative to preserve peace. Without a two-state solution, there will be no peace in the Middle East, and extremism will expand everywhere in the world with consequences that I consider extremely, extremely negative.
James, Pam, then Sylviane.
Secretary General, I'm sorry, I'm going to raise genocide again. You explained that you cannot make a legal declaration, but you know that international law is glacial. The Myanmar case started in 2019, and there's still not a verdict 5 years later. It's not a dry legal question because it's ongoing every single day, multiple deaths caused by Israel. So won't history judge you harshly if you don't declare what we can all see in front of our eyes? Is this not what genocide looks like, Secretary General?
History will remember the fact that we were in the first line to fight for the defense of the interests of the Palestinian people. History will remember the 400 UN members that were killed in Gaza. History will remember all the efforts that we have made to denounce the constant violations of international law and, worst, the level of death and destruction that has no parallel in my time in office. History will remember that we have been in a leadership position in defense of the rights of the Palestinian people, in the promotion of a Palestinian state. That is what history will remember. not a question of semantics.
But is this what genocide looks like, Secretary General, even if you don't make a legal definition?
Independently of the definition, the problem is not the word, the problem is the reality. And nobody has described this reality in a more dramatic way than the UN, and sorry to say, myself.
Pam?
Thank you for the briefing, SG. It's Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World Report. With so many conflicts that you're talking about and everyone's asking you about, the UN has a bit of a credibility issue today. It goes up, it goes down. We've seen that. It's my 25th UNGA. But what is your view of the vitality of the UN? You mentioned the bilateral meetings, so many, maybe getting everybody in one room. But the cutbacks, all of that have to do with the fact that maybe it's great powers, but the UN is not solving these problems. What's your case for the vitality of the UN? Thank you.
The UN is a lot of things. Obviously, the UN is a Security Council, and the geopolitical divides have paralyzed the Security Council, and it is the Security Council that has the primary responsibility to preserve peace and security in the world. And for that, I'm not able to give an adequate answer to your question. But the UN is much more than the Security Council. The UN is providing humanitarian aid in the world in situations that are extremely difficult, more and more difficult, but vital to save lives and vital to rescue communities. The UN is being able to have the leadership, and I think nobody puts that into question, in the fight against climate change. The UN has been extremely active in making sure that new technologies are put into the adequate guardrails to be a force for good. And we just approved, as you know, are going to create the first global governance instruments in relation to artificial intelligence. The UN is extremely active, country by country, in supporting countries in their own development process. And if you ask heads of state about UN country teams, they will tell you that UN country teams are providing an excellent support to their activities. So the UN is many things. There is one thing I cannot solve: the capacity of the Security Council in a world that is so dramatically divided among the big powers to have the necessary instruments for ending impunity and for those that are complicating the different conflicts that we have and that are more and more internationalized, for those to understand that there is a risk if they go on. That paralysis of the Security Council is a source of impunity that undermines our work. But that needs to be clarified as what it is. It is not the UN, it's the member states that, divided, do not allow the UN to work properly.
Sylviane, then Abdelhamid, then Joe.
Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, Sylviane Zahil, c'est là. Je suis Sylviane Zahil d'Orient le Jour, en français, Beyrouth.
Le micro un peu plus près, merci.
Voilà. Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, le Conseil de sécurité a décidé que l'armée libanaise remplacera la FINUL en 2027. Comment l'ONU peut-elle prétendre que l'armée libanaise exercera pleinement sa souveraineté dans le sud alors que le Hezbollah y conserve ses armes, ses structures et son contrôle territorial? Une fois que la FINUL va partir, qui va documenter et arbitrer les violations israéliennes du Blue Line, de la ligne bleue, après 2026? L'armée libanaise seule et sans couverture internationale? Est-ce qu'il y a un risque d'escalade qui nous attend, qui attend le Liban? Merci, monsieur.
Dans le moment le plus difficile du conflit, j'étais là, en visitant la FINUL à la frontière. Et je suis vraiment orgueilleux du travail que la FINUL, en tant que force onusienne, a fait et continue à faire au Liban. Je crois que c'est évident que nous assistons aujourd'hui à une logique qui est très claire. Israël fait une violation systématique de l'accord en maintenant des positions à l'intérieur du Liban et en faisant des attaques ici et là. Et l'Hezbollah profite de ça pour justifier son existence comme force armée. Et Israël profite de l'existence du Liban comme force armée, de l'Hezbollah comme force armée, pour maintenir ces violations du cessez-le-feu. C'est pour ça que je considère que c'est absolument essentiel d'appuyer le gouvernement libanais, qui a un programme qui vise le monopole de la force dans les mains de l'armée libanaise, et que c'est essentiel qu'Israël respecte le cessez-le-feu et abandonne les positions à l'intérieur du Liban.
Abdelhamid, then Joe.
Thank you, sir. My name is Abdelhamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Sir, the former Secretary General Kofi Annan said the scars of the genocide in Rwanda will haunt me all my life. Now it's your second term, sir. You have 1 year and few months left. And the world is burning. The UN, which you head on top of it, failed the people of Palestine and Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, Yemen, Myanmar, Haiti, and look around what's going on. You validated Article 99 to the Security Council, but nothing worked. Did you consider throwing the bomb in the arms of the laps of the Security Council member and declare resignation?
And
resign as a protest for the failure of the Security Council?
I think my resignation would be very much welcome by all those that are misbehaving, and so I will not give them that pressure. But I can clearly express my deep frustration with the fact that these problems that you raise are not properly solved, and that the international community has not the capacity to come together to solve them.
But what after you validated Article 99, what do you have other means to influence the Security Council?
I always said that Article 99 has essentially a symbolic value, and that is why I used it in the worst. I didn't use the Article 99 on all situations. I used it in the situation that I consider the most serious situation in relation to global peace and security, and that is the situation in Gaza. And that is why I invoked Article 99 in Gaza. Not that I was convinced that with Article 99 we would solve the problem, but it was a symbolic gesture to show how dramatically I feel the horrendous things that is happening in Gaza.
Joe?
Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press. I want to turn to what I hope will be a more pleasant subject for you, the UN 80 initiative. So could you please share your thoughts on any specific UN 80 initiative structural reforms? I know they're under review in Workstream 3, but I'm sure you have some ideas that you would like to see based on your 2 terms as Secretary General. For example, what is your view on consolidating separate UN human rights related protection entities such as sexual violence and conflict, preventing sexual exploitation and abuse, and the work that the UN Women Organization is doing on violence against women, to consolidate all that into a more integrated synergy enhanced single body? Thank you.
We will do a number of mergers and operations of that sort, and we will limit the number of envoys. We will not be able to touch immediately mandates that come from strictly decision of the Security Council, which of course means that probably those mandates will not be changed, but a number of others will be changed, and we will have a reduction of the number of entities within the UN. I'm not going to enter into details because I will be presenting the report, the progress report, Thursday or Friday, and I will not anticipate the measures that will be proposed. But we will see a number of significant measures.
Rudao, Media Network.
Secretary General, thank you so much for coming here today. I'm Namo Abdullah with Rudao Media Network from Kurdistan. You are expected to meet Syria's President Ahmad al-Shara, I believe. Would you raise the demand of Syria's religious and ethnic minorities, like the Druze and the Kurds, who are calling for decentralized governance in Syria? They say they want to be in charge of their own affairs within a united Syria. Thank you.
Of course I'll raise these issues. And for me it is absolutely essential to preserve the unity of Syria, of course, and the territorial integrity of Syria. But it is also absolutely essential that all communities feel that their identity is respected, and at the same time that they have full rights of participation in the country as a whole. So this will be serious, certainly in the center of our discussions.
Georgia, then Marta.
Thank you, Secretary General. Georgia Garangiotti from Athens News Agency and Cyprus. My question is for Cyprus, on Cyprus issue. As we know, as you said, during the UN summit, you will meet both Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot leaders. Are you still optimistic for the resumption of the talks? Thank you.
I will respond again with the Jean Monnet sentence that I used several times in this press conference. I'm not optimistic, I'm not pessimistic, I'm determined. I will not give up.
Thank you.
Marta, then Mercedes.
Hello, Marta from the Portuguese National News Agency. Can we speak in Portuguese or there is no translators in the room?
Of course you can speak in Portuguese.
Obrigada por esta conferência de imprensa. Na próxima semana teremos aqui vários países a reconhecer o Estado palestiniano. Está otimista de que isso irá resultar em avanços concretos do terreno e espera que Portugal reconheça também o Estado palestiniano?
Eu não vou dar conselhos ao meu próprio país. Mas vi hoje afirmações do Ministro dos Negócios Estrangeiros dizendo que não vê nenhum obstáculo a esse reconhecimento. Creio que esta reunião é da maior importância. É da maior importância porque no momento em que se fala de possíveis anexações, nomeadamente da Cisjordânia, no momento em que assistimos à destruição sistemática em Gaza, é essencial reafirmar o direito do povo palestiniano à autodeterminação, é essencial reafirmar o seu direito a ter um Estado e que a solução dos dois Estados seja a base da paz e da segurança para os dois povos. E nesse sentido, esta reunião é uma reunião de extrema importância e é sabendo que o Estado palestiniano foi reconhecido pelas Nações Unidas e é observador nas Nações Unidas, é óbvio que é do interesse das Nações Unidas que o maior número possível de Estados reconheça o Estado palestiniano.
Mercedes and David.
Thank you. Secretary General Mercedes Gallego with the Spanish newspaper El Correo.
You can speak in Spanish if you want.
I would, but perhaps my colleagues would like to listen to the question too. It's again on the genocide question. The president of the independent committee also noticed that the legality of calling it a genocide belongs to the courts, but she said we have under the international law the obligation to prevent genocide. Are you prepared to at least support their recommendation to stop selling weapons to Israel, or what other way do you suggest that the UN and the international community has to prevent what is ongoing?
I have no weapons to sell to Israel.
And, I know the recommendation
I think that, as I said, this is an independent committee. The independent committee made a report. I think that report must be seen with attention and with adequate engagement by every state. But obviously that doesn't mean that all states will follow the recommendations. But I think the report exists. I think that existence is something that should be taken into account by those that are formulating their policies.
So you suggest that other countries should accept those recommendations?
I've witnessed the position of the government of Spain. The government of Spain has been in the front line of the defense of the interests of the Palestinian people, and that is something that we cherish very positively.
David?
Gracias.
Right there.
Good afternoon, sir. David Hamilton, Fox News. Monday will be the two-state solution and continuation from July. The question I have is a legal one. 145 to 160 countries will declare Palestine an independent state. What does that mean legally? And the reason why I ask this question is because various UN resolutions, the Oslo Accords, have clearly stated that the final solution of an independent state will be up to the two parties. Now, since two parties are not negotiating at the moment, what does it legally mean for UN members to summarily declare Palestine as a state? What is the legal binding? What does the UN find in its previous resolutions? How does that correlate with each other?
Well, as I said, the UN, as the General Assembly, has recognized the state of Palestine. He is an observer in the UN, and obviously, in that regard, the fact that a larger number of states does the same strengthens that position. But obviously, one thing is to recognize the state of Palestine. The other thing is the state of Palestine being able to fully exercise the rights of sovereignty, and I know that we are very far from that situation at the present moment. And I hope that there will be a serious negotiation leading to that.
You, Kyoto?
Thank you, Stefan. So good to see you again, Secretary General. My name is Yu from Kyoto News, Japanese news agency. So my question is about the reform of Security Council, so especially about the veto. So what do you say that you are so stressed? So what do you think about the veto in terms of reforming? Thank you.
First of all, I believe the Security Council reform is something that makes full sense. Security Council has a composition that doesn't correspond to the world of today. It corresponds to the world of 1945. And that creates not only a problem of legitimacy, but a problem of efficiency. On the other hand, we have the right of veto. There were proposals, namely by France and the UK, limiting the right of veto, especially in situations where we have massive violations of human rights or dramatic cases of this kind. And I see with sympathy that proposal, but of course it's up to member states to look seriously into the reform of the Security Council. The one thing that I can tell you is that I believe I'm the first Secretary General that talks all the time about the need to reform the Security Council. And the truth is that this item that was completely taboo in the past is now in the center of the discussions of the General Assembly. Before, there was a committee that couldn't even issue papers, and the documents would not move from one year to another. Now there is a committee working seriously. And several countries have recognized, for instance, even the P5, that Africa should have the right to have a permanent member. So I see movement, and I would like also to see movement in relation to certain limitations in the exercise of the right of veto. But again, this is a matter that only member states can solve.
Linda, then Adla.
Thank you.
Raise your. Yeah.
Here, Linda Fasulo for NPR, the UN.
My question is going back to Gaza. Mr. Secretary General, we know that Israel at this juncture does not favor a two-state solution, or appears not to, but neither does Hamas, as far as I believe. What is your sense of what role Hamas will actually play in any future state? And also another question is, how do you believe Hamas has, what's your view in terms of how Hamas has conducted the war in Gaza?
Well, we have been very clear condemning Hamas and the horrific attacks that Hamas did and that generated or used as a pretext, whatever you want to say, but generated this massive response by Israel. And I sincerely believe, as I said for Lebanon, it doesn't make sense to have a state with armed groups that are not integrated in the army of the state. And obviously, the state of Palestine that I want, and there is an agreement of the Palestinian Authority, would be a disarmed state of Palestine, with, of course, a police force, but not with an army, which means that there would be no room for armed movements within that state.
Adla?
Adla Masood from The National. Mr. Secretary General, U.S. and Israeli officials have denounced the recent recognitions of Palestine as a gift to Hamas. Do you think...
Sorry?
As a gift to Hamas.
What?
Oh, the recognitions of Palestine as a state. Do you think the recognitions by some states risks undermining the prospects for peace?
I don't think so. First of all, it's not a gift to Hamas, because the two-state solution is something that is not also in Hamas program, as you know. It is a gift to the Palestinian people that has suffered also a lot because of Hamas.
Noreen?
Thank you very much, sir. This is Noreen Hussain with IPS News. My question is actually about the high-level conference on Rohingya Muslims and other minorities in Myanmar. As you may know, sir, that the UN has been at the forefront of the humanitarian response to the Rohingya refugee crisis. It has been 8 years now since that. Since the nearly 1 million Muslims Rohingyas were forced to flee Rakhine State. And as the conference, wishes to achieve a sustainable resolution to this situation, what I would like to ask you in your own words is, what do you foresee is the UN's role in working towards that resolution that goes beyond its humanitarian response? Thank you.
Well, I feel the Rohingya situation particularly because I worked a lot with the Rohingyas when I was High Commissioner for Refugees. And I've witnessed how discriminated they were, probably the highest level of discrimination I've ever seen in a country. And then how dramatically they were killed and their villages destroyed in the offensive of the armed forces that we had a few years ago and led to this massive movement to Bangladesh. It is absolutely essential that the solution of the many problems that Myanmar has, and there are other, as you know, that we have a solution based on a return to democracy, but not only a return to democracy, but the recognition that the Rohingyas belong to the state of Myanmar and that citizenship must be given to them, and they must have the same rights of all the other Myanmaris. Unfortunately, as you know, the position of the government has been not only abolishing democracy and engaging in different conflicts with different groups, but has until now denied the status of citizenship to the Rohingyas, what is absolutely intolerable.
Last question all the way in the back, Xinhua. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Secretary General. This Yun Pan with.
Sorry.
China's Xinhua News Agency. I'm going to ask you a question about the 4 global initiatives.
About?
The global initiatives. I know.
The global initiative from President Xi. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Just ask.
Okay. I know you went to Tianjin to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in early September, and at the summit, Chinese president proposed the 4th global initiative, the Global Governance Initiative. I know these 4 global initiatives address many of the most pressing global issues. And can you comment how these initiatives will contribute to the 3 fundamental pillars of the United Nations? Thank you.
Well, I think that it is very important to underline that in this global initiative, there is a full respect to multilateralism. There is full support of the UN as the central piece of multilateral institutions, and a strong commitment in relation to the international cooperation and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. So I do believe that these principles are principles that are totally compatible with UN Charter.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, and thank you to all of you and to our interpreters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Perdón.